In 1964, at the height of the civil rights movement, one of the most respected men in America received a letter. It wasn't from a supporter. It wasn't from a critic. It was anonymous. The letter accused him of moral failings, called him a fraud, and ended with a chilling suggestion. "You are done. There is but one way out for you." The man who received that letter was Martin Luther King Jr., and the sender? The Federal Bureau of Investigation. This is the hidden history of the FBI's secret war against Martin Luther King Jr. By the early 1960s, Martin Luther King Jr. had become the face of the civil rights movement. After the success of the Montgomery bus boycott, King rose to national prominence. Then came the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, where he delivered the iconic "I Have a Dream" speech. But while millions admired him, powerful figures in Washington viewed him very differently. The director of the FBI at the time was J. Edgar Hoover, a man who had led the Bureau since 1924. Hoover believed communism was the greatest threat to America, and he saw communist influence everywhere. To Hoover, King wasn't just a civil rights leader. He was a potential national security threat. Why? Because some of King's associates, including advisor Stanley Levison, had alleged past ties to the Communist Party. In the Cold War climate, that was enough. In 1963, the FBI requested permission to wiretap King's phone lines. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy reluctantly approved limited surveillance, reportedly to investigate possible communist influence. But what began as a narrow investigation quickly expanded. The FBI bugged King's home, his hotel rooms, his offices. They recorded his private conversations, tracked his movements, compiled detailed files on his personal life. This operation eventually became part of a broader covert program known as COINTELPRO, short for Counterintelligence Program. COINTELPRO's goal? To expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize groups considered subversive. And King became one of its highest profile targets. The FBI didn't just collect information, they weaponized it. Agents compiled recordings of King's alleged extramarital affairs. They monitored his travel and personal relationships. Then, in 1964, just weeks before King was to receive the Nobel Peace Prize, the FBI mailed him a package. Inside were audio recordings and that now infamous anonymous letter. The letter accused King of being morally corrupt and implied that suicide was the only way to avoid public humiliation. It was psychological warfare. Hoover publicly called King the most notorious liar in the country.
Behind closed doors, the Bureau attempted to leak damaging information to journalists, civil rights leaders, and even King's wife. The goal was clear: destroy his credibility. Not because he was violent, not because he broke the law, but because he was powerful. By the late 1960s, King's activism had expanded beyond civil rights. He began speaking out against the Vietnam War, most notably in his 1967 speech at Riverside Church in New York. In that speech, he called the United States the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today. This was a turning point. King was no longer just a civil rights leader. He was criticizing American foreign policy. He was organizing the Poor People's Campaign. He was challenging economic inequality. To the FBI, he was becoming even more dangerous. Surveillance intensified. On April 4th, 1968, King was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. He was 39 years old. The FBI closed its official surveillance file shortly after, but the story didn't end there. In the 1970s, the Church Committee investigated intelligence abuses by U.S. agencies. What they uncovered shocked the nation. The FBI had systematically targeted civil rights leaders, anti-war activists, and political organizations, often without evidence of criminal wrongdoing. The campaign against King became one of the most disturbing examples of domestic surveillance overreach in American history. Today, Martin Luther King Jr. is remembered as a hero. There's a national holiday in his honor. Streets bear his name. His speeches are taught in schools. But during his lifetime, the most powerful law enforcement agency in the country worked tirelessly to undermine him. The FBI's war on Martin Luther King Jr. reveals something uncomfortable about American history. Sometimes, the greatest threats to justice are not the protesters in the streets, but the institutions behind closed doors. The question is not just why the FBI targeted King. The question is, if it happened then, could it happen again?